Emily walked with a familiar rhythm, her steps light but tired. The city around her was a blur of noise and hurried movement, but she barely noticed it anymore. Every evening, just after her shift ended at the busy downtown cafe, she made her way to the same park. It had been like this for as long as she could remember, a ritual that had started when she was a small child and continued faithfully into her early 20s. The park was her escape, a place where the concrete jungle gave way to something softer, greener. It was a place to breathe. As she entered the park gates, the sounds of traffic faded, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the distant laughter of children. The air always felt a little cleaner here, a little cooler. She walked past the playground, where swings hung empty at this late hour, and followed the winding path until she reached her usual spot. It was a simple wooden bench, worn smooth by countless visitors, tucked beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak tree. This tree was her anchor, its gnarled roots a silent testament to time and endurance. Sitting there, Emily felt a sense of peace that nothing else in her life seemed to offer. She would just sit, watch the last of the daylight fade, and sometimes she would dream. Far above, in a penthouse suite that seemed to touch the clouds, Mr. Harrison looked down. His world was one of glass, steel, and endless numbers. He was a billionaire, a titan of industry, whose days were a relentless cycle of meetings, deals, and decisions. His life was opulent, yes, but also strangely empty. He lived in a quiet, reclusive bubble, detached from the ordinary hustle and bustle of the city sprawling beneath him. Emotions were a luxury he rarely indulged, a weakness he had long since learned to suppress. Yet, lately, his gaze had often drifted to the park below, specifically to a small figure that appeared there like clockwork each evening. He had first noticed her a few weeks ago, a fleeting glimpse as he took a moment to stare out his window, a rare pause in his demanding schedule. She was always there, always at the same bench under the same old oak tree. Her consistency was what first caught his attention. In a world of constant change and unpredictable variables, her quiet ritual was an anomaly. He didn't know her name or anything about her, but he started to expect her, a small, unconscious part of his daily routine. His curiosity was piqued, a feeling so rare for him that it was almost unsettling. Emily, oblivious to the eyes watching her from above, often found herself gazing at the city lights twinkling in the distance. Each light was a home, a family, a life story. She wondered about them, about the people who lived in those bright, distant windows. Her own life felt small in comparison, confined by circumstance. The park, with its quiet beauty, offered a temporary escape from the reality of her mother's demanding job, a reality that often felt heavy on Emily's shoulders. She knew her mother, Sarah, worked tirelessly as a maid for one of the city's wealthy families, sacrificing so much to give Emily a better future. Emily carried that knowledge with a quiet determination, a silent promise to make her mother proud. Sarah was a strong woman, her hands roughened by years of cleaning, her spirit unbroken. She woke before dawn, returned after dusk, and rarely complained. Emily saw the toll it took, the lines of exhaustion etched around her mother's eyes, the weariness in her posture. It fueled Emily's own unspoken longings, her dreams of a life where she could help her mother rest, a life where they wouldn't have to worry about every penny. The park was where she nurtured those dreams, letting them take root and grow like the sturdy oak above her. As the days turned into weeks, Mr. Harrison found himself increasingly drawn to the mystery of the girl in the park. His daily routine now included a moment, sometimes longer, of watching her. He didn't understand why. She wasn't doing anything remarkable, just sitting, sometimes reading a book, sometimes just looking out at the city. Yet he felt an unfamiliar pull, a subtle urge to understand her simple world, so different from his own complex existence. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, a quiet stirring in a heart he thought had long since turned to stone. Sometimes, a fleeting image would flicker at the edge of his mind, a brief, almost subconscious memory connected to the park, or perhaps just to the sight of a young girl under an old tree. It was too vague to grasp, like trying to catch smoke, but it left him with a subtle sense of unease, a feeling that something important was just out of reach. He pushed it away, focusing on his work, but the image of the girl always returned. One evening, as Emily finally rose from her bench, gathering her small bag and heading towards the park exit, Mr. Harrison made a decision. He watched her disappear into the bustling street below, a tiny figure swallowed by the city. He felt an inexplicable urge, a compulsion to learn more about her, to understand why this young woman, a complete stranger, held his attention so completely. It was unlike him, completely out of character. He picked up his phone, his finger hovering over the contact for his executive assistant. The stage was set for his direct involvement, though he had no idea just how deeply this simple curiosity would lead him. Mr. Harrison's executive assistant, a sharp woman named Ms. Davies, was used to his unusual requests, but this one felt different. He had called her late that night, his voice devoid of its usual clipped efficiency, almost contemplative. He wanted information about a young woman he'd seen in the park below his penthouse. Nothing too intrusive, he'd stressed, just her name, where she lived, and what she did. He made it clear he wanted complete discretion. No alarms raised. Ms. Davies, ever professional, took the instructions without question, her curiosity subtly piqued. A few days later, she presented him with a concise report. The young woman's name was Emily Hayes. She lived in a modest apartment a few miles from the park with her mother, Sarah Hayes. Sarah worked as a maid for the prestigious Sterling family, known for their old money and sprawling estate on the other side of the city. Emily, the report noted, worked part-time at a local bookstore and was a student at the community college, studying general arts. Her life was quiet, unremarkable by most standards, but to Mr. Harrison, it felt like a puzzle piece he was finally starting to fit into place. He thanked Ms. Davies, a rare, almost gentle note in his voice, and dismissed her, his gaze immediately falling back to the park. He watched Emily that evening, a new layer of understanding coloring his observations. He knew her name now, knew a little about her life. As she settled onto her usual bench, she pulled something from her bag. It wasn't a book tonight. It was a small, worn sketchbook and a set of pencils. Emily began to draw. Mr. Harrison, watching through his high-powered binoculars, saw her hand move with a practiced grace. Her head was tilted, her brow furrowed in concentration, completely lost in her own world. He couldn't see what she was drawing, not clearly, but the act itself was captivating. He had always appreciated art, owning several priceless pieces, but he had never seen anyone create it with such quiet intensity. A few times she paused, holding the sketchbook up, her eyes scanning the park, then back to her page. He imagined she was capturing the old oak tree, perhaps the fountain, or even the distant city skyline she often observed. One evening, as the light began to fade, Emily closed her sketchbook, a soft sigh escaping her lips. For a fleeting second, as she tucked it back into her bag, Mr. Harrison caught a glimpse of a finished drawing. It was quick, too quick to make out details. But he saw shapes, lines, and a hint of color. It looked like a landscape, perhaps the park itself, but with an energy he hadn't expected from such a quiet observer. This glimpse deepened his intrigue. It wasn't just simple curiosity anymore. It was something more, a feeling that tugged at a part of him he rarely acknowledged. He thought about Emily's mother, Sarah, working for the Sterling family. The Sterlings were old money, respected, but not in his immediate social circle. He knew them by reputation, of course. It was a small world at the top, even if he preferred to remain on its fringes. He wondered if Emily knew her mother worked for such a prominent family, or if she too was just a quiet presence moving through their lives. Much like he had been observing her, Sarah's dedication to her work and her employer was clear. Ms. Davies' report had indicated she had been with the Sterlings for over 15 years. That kind of loyalty was rare these days. Mr. Harrison found himself increasingly captivated by Emily's quiet artistic pursuit. His observations became more frequent, more focused. He found himself looking forward to the evenings, to the moment she would appear, a small figure under the grand oak. He wondered about her inner world, so different from his own, so seemingly uncomplicated. He imagined her thoughts as she sketched, her dreams as she gazed at the city lights. It was a stark contrast to his own life, filled with board meetings, market fluctuations, and endless negotiations. Emily, for her part, remained completely oblivious to the billionaire's attention. She continued her routine, finding solace and creative expression in the park. Her focus was entirely on her art, on capturing the fleeting moments of beauty she saw around her, and on the quiet contemplation that the park offered. She never felt watched, never sensed the powerful eyes that followed her every move from the penthouse high above. Her world was small, contained, and peaceful. As he watched her one night, a stronger, more vivid memory flashed in Mr. Harrison's mind. It wasn't just a flicker now, but a brief, almost tangible image. A little girl, not Emily, but another, younger girl, with bright laughing eyes, clutching a crayon-drawn picture of a tree. She was under a similar oak tree, perhaps this very one, and there was a woman, a kind face, kneeling beside her. The memory was still fragmented, like pieces of a broken mirror, but the sense of loss that came with it was overwhelming. It was a familiar ache, one he had buried deep for years. The connection was still elusive, but it was growing stronger, more insistent. The unease he had felt before now had a name: grief. He knew this feeling. It was the same one that had driven him into his reclusive existence, the same one that had made him build walls around his heart. Emily, with her quiet art and her presence in the park, was somehow chipping away at those walls. Driven by this deepening curiosity, the unsettling memories, and a feeling he couldn't quite name, Mr. Harrison made a decision. He decided he had to approach Emily. He knew it was a risk. He wasn't good with people, especially not with casual interactions. His life was built on calculated moves, on strategic advantages, but this felt different. It felt personal. He spent the next day planning his first direct interaction, considering how to do so without startling her, without revealing too much, yet still getting answers to the questions that now burned within him. His usual calculated approach was tinged with an unusual nervousness, a flutter in his chest he hadn't felt in decades. As evening approached, Mr. Harrison did something he hadn't done in years. He left his penthouse, took the private elevator down to the ground floor, and walked out into the bustling city streets. He was dressed simply, in clothes that wouldn't draw attention, a rare departure from his usual perfectly tailored suits. He walked towards the park, a place he had only observed from a distance for so long. He was about to step into Emily's world, a world so different from his own, completely unaware of the profound impact this simple act would have on both their lives. The anticipation of their first meeting built with every step he took towards the familiar green space, towards the young woman sitting under the old oak tree. Mr. Harrison approached the bench where Emily sat, his heart thumping a little faster than usual. He tried to project an air of casual interest, something he hadn't had to do in years. He cleared his throat lightly as he neared her spot under the old oak tree, making sure not to startle her. Emily, engrossed in her sketching, looked up, her eyes wide for a fleeting moment before she offered a polite, small smile. "Good evening," Mr. Harrison said, his voice a little gruffer than he intended. He gestured vaguely at the park around them. "Beautiful evening, isn't it? The light really catches the leaves just right this time of day." He hoped he sounded convincing, like any ordinary person enjoying a walk in the park. Emily nodded, her smile softening. "It really is. It's my favorite time to be here." She looked back at her sketchbook for a moment, then met his gaze again. "Are you enjoying your walk?" "Very much so," he replied, taking a few steps closer. "I often see you here. You seem to really appreciate this place." He paused, searching for a natural continuation. Do you come here often to draw?" Emily's cheeks flushed slightly. "Yes, almost every evening, after work. It's my quiet time. And yes, I love to draw what I see here." She gestured to the park with her pencil. "There's always something new, even if it feels the same." Mr. Harrison found himself relaxing a little, the conversation flowing more easily than he anticipated. "That's wonderful. I admire people who can capture beauty like that. I myself, well, I'm more of a numbers man." He offered a small, almost imperceptible smile. "But I can certainly appreciate art." As they spoke, a gentle breeze swept through the park, catching the corner of Emily's open sketchbook. Before she could react, it flipped open, and a few loose pages fluttered, one nearly escaping her grasp. Mr. Harrison instinctively reached out, his hand brushing hers as he helped steady the book. In that brief moment, his eyes landed on the intricate drawings within. There were detailed sketches of the oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching towards the sky, and delicate renderings of the park's various flora. There were also quick, expressive portraits of park-goers, and some abstract patterns that seemed to swirl with emotion. "These are remarkable," he said, his voice laced with genuine surprise and admiration. He hadn't expected such skill. The lines were confident, the shading nuanced. "You're incredibly talented." Emily quickly closed the sketchbook, a shy smile touching her lips. "Oh, it's just a hobby. Nothing serious. I just like to draw what I see and feel." She downplayed her talent, almost as if she was embarrassed by the praise. "It helps me relax." Her modesty further intrigued Mr. Harrison. He had met countless artists, many with inflated egos and self-important airs. Emily was different. She seemed genuinely humble, seeing her talent as a simple pastime rather than a grand pursuit. It was refreshing, and it made him want to know more. He noticed a particular detail in one of the drawings he had glimpsed, a small, almost hidden bird's nest tucked into the crook of a branch on the oak tree. It was drawn with such tenderness, such precision, that it felt strangely familiar. As he looked at this detail, a powerful wave of déjà vu washed over him, stronger and more vivid than any before. It wasn't just a fleeting image this time. It was a sensation, a scent, a feeling of warmth and innocence. He saw the nest, but then he saw another hand, much smaller, sketching it with a similar delicate touch. He heard a soft laugh, a chime-like sound that seemed to echo from deep within his memory. White, he thought. The hand was small and white, holding a crayon. The memory was still incomplete, like a puzzle with missing pieces, but it was closer to the surface now, tantalizingly within reach. The bird's nest, the oak tree, the park, they were all connected to this swirling, half-formed recollection. Mr. Harrison felt an urgent need to understand why Emily and her art felt so familiar, why this park held such a strange, powerful pull on his emotions. His interest had definitely gone beyond mere curiosity. There was a deeper, emotional connection taking root, a sense of something lost and now, perhaps, found. He knew he couldn't press her for answers now, not without revealing his true intentions, which would surely alarm her. "Well, Emily," he said, forcing himself to sound casual, "your hobby is truly something special. Keep at it." He knew he had to leave, to process what he had just felt, but he also knew he wanted to come back. "I should get going, but I hope to see you here again soon. Perhaps we can chat another time." He gave her a polite nod and turned to leave, walking away from the bench with purpose. But his mind was reeling. Emily watched him go, a slight frown on her face. The encounter was unusual. Strangers didn't often approach her in the park, and certainly not to discuss her art. She found the man's interest peculiar, but not unwelcome. His compliments had made her feel a warmth she wasn't used to. A small seed of hope, or perhaps just wonder, was planted within her. Maybe her art wasn't just a hobby after all. She looked down at her sketchbook, at the drawing of the bird's nest, and a faint, almost forgotten image flickered in her own mind. A woman, a kind face, smiling at her, holding a similar drawing, but it was too hazy to grasp. Back in his office, Mr. Harrison was a man possessed. He couldn't shake the image of the bird's nest, the feeling of familiarity, the echo of that laugh. He immediately called his assistant, his voice tight with a new kind of urgency. "I need you to dig deeper, much deeper, into Emily's background, everything. And specifically, I want you to look for any connections to my past, to my family, to Clara." He uttered his sister's name, a name he rarely spoke aloud, with a sudden pang. "Look for anything related to a park, a specific oak tree, or any art, especially drawings of bird nests." He provided vague clues from his fragmented memories, hoping they would lead somewhere, praying they would. He realized now that his reclusiveness, his deep-seated emotional guardedness, wasn't just about his sister's death, but about the profound loss that had followed, the way he had shut out everything connected to that painful time. He had buried it all, including people, places, and memories. He had tried to erase the pain by erasing the past. But Emily, with her quiet presence and her art, was inadvertently bringing it all back, forcing him to confront the lingering shadow of a tragedy he thought he had escaped. He knew now that he wouldn't rest until he understood the full truth. Mr. Harrison's assistant, a diligent woman named Brenda, worked through the night, following her boss's unusually specific, almost frantic instructions. She delved into archives that hadn't been touched in decades. She cross-referenced names, dates, and locations. The task was complex, like piecing together fragments of a forgotten history. But by morning, she had a stack of documents and a crucial piece of information that would change everything. She walked into Mr. Harrison's office, a more subdued man than the one who had barked orders at her just hours before, and placed a thick file on his desk. "Sir," she began, her voice quiet, I believe I have found what you were looking for. And more. Mr. Harrison looked up, his eyes tired but alight with a desperate hope. Well, don't keep me waiting. Brenda opened the file. Emily's mother, Sarah, worked for your family, Mr. Harrison. Not for you directly, but for your sister, Clara. She was Clara's personal maid for several years, right up until the accident. The words hit Mr. Harrison like a physical blow. Sarah. Clara. It all clicked into place with a sudden painful clarity. The name, the connection, the park, the sketches. It was all suddenly, horrifically clear, a flood of suppressed memories. Locked away for years behind a wall of grief and self-imposed isolation, broke free. He remembered Clara, his vibrant, artistic younger sister, full of life and dreams. He remembered her boundless love for drawing, how she would spend hours in the park, sketching everything from squirrels to the intricate patterns of leaves. And he remembered Sarah, a kind, gentle woman who had been more than just a maid to Clara. She had been a confidant, a friend. He remembered a tiny Emily, a toddler with wide, curious eyes, often trailing after her mother, or sometimes perched on Clara's lap as Clara sketched. Clara had adored Emily. She would tell Mr. Harrison that Emily had the artist's eye. Even then, Clara would often take Emily to the very same park, the one visible from his penthouse window, the one where Emily now sat every evening. They would sit under the massive oak tree, Clara with her sketchbook, and Emily with her own small crayon and paper, trying to mimic her beloved Aunt Clara. It was revealed that Clara had not just been an aspiring artist. She had been a truly gifted one. Her sketchbooks, which Mr. Harrison had carefully preserved but rarely looked at since her death, were filled with sensitive portraits and detailed landscapes. Her style was unique, characterized by a delicate line work and a profound appreciation for nature. And now, looking at Emily's sketches, the resemblance was undeniable. The way Emily drew the curve of a bird's wing, the texture of the oak tree's bark, the subtle interplay of light and shadow. It was all so reminiscent of Clara's work. Clara had often drawn the park, its visitors, and yes, that specific oak tree, countless times. She had even drawn bird nests, meticulously detailing each twig and feather, a recurring motif in her early work. The painful memory of Clara's sudden death resurfaced, raw and sharp. It wasn't an accident, not really. It was a car crash, a drunk driver. She had been so young, so full of promise. Mr. Harrison had buried his grief so deeply that he had also buried any connection to that period, including the people involved. He had cut off contact with Sarah, unable to bear the reminder of a life that had been so cruelly cut short. His reclusiveness, his emotional distance, his entire existence for the last 15 years had been a monument to that profound, unaddressed loss. He had tried to erase the pain by erasing the past, but in doing so, he had also erased the joy, the love, the connection. Emily, too young to remember Clara clearly, had unknowingly continued a legacy. Her artistic talent, her love for the park, her preference for drawing nature, these were not just random choices. They were direct echoes of Clara's influence, nurtured by her mother, Sarah. Sarah, in her quiet way, had subtly encouraged Emily's drawing, perhaps as a way to honor Clara's memory, to keep a piece of that vibrant young woman alive through her own daughter. Mr. Harrison was overwhelmed by a crushing wave of guilt. Guilt for not recognizing Emily sooner, for his blindness, for his self-pity. Guilt for having completely cut off ties with Sarah after Clara's death, for abandoning a woman who had shown such loyalty and kindness to his sister. He realized he had inadvertently severed a vital link to his beloved sister's memory, to her spirit. His past actions now weighed heavily on him, a burden he had unknowingly carried for too long. Sarah's continued dedication to her work, her quiet strength, now stood out even more. She had never spoken ill of the Harrisons, never complained about the abrupt end of her previous employment, even though it must have been a difficult time for her and young Emily. She had carried the memory of Clara and her family with dignity, a silent testament to her character. A new purpose ignited within Mr. Harrison, a fire he hadn't felt in years. His initial curiosity had transformed into a profound sense of responsibility, a desperate desire for redemption, and a yearning for connection. He saw Emily not just as a talented young artist, but as a living embodiment of Clara's spirit, a second chance to honor his sister's memory, to right a terrible wrong. He knew he couldn't approach them as the aloof billionaire he had been. He had to approach them with honesty, with humility, and with a sincere apology. He planned to reveal his true identity, to lay bare the shared past, and to ask for their forgiveness and understanding. The stage was set for an emotional and potentially difficult confrontation, but for the first time in years, Mr. Harrison felt a flicker of hope, a sense of direction. He knew he had to face the past to build a future, not just for himself, but for Emily and Sarah too. Mr. Harrison knew he couldn't delay. The truth, once revealed, had to be addressed. He arranged a meeting, not at his imposing office or the park bench, but at a quiet, unassuming cafe on the edge of the city. He wanted a neutral space, somewhere they might feel comfortable, away from the opulence that now felt like a cage he'd built for himself. He called Sarah, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands, and asked if she and Emily would meet him. He didn't reveal his full identity over the phone, only that he had important information regarding their shared past. Sarah, surprised, agreed, a hint of trepidation in her tone. Emily, curious, came along. When they arrived, Mr. Harrison was already seated, a simple cup of coffee in front of him. He stood as they approached, a gesture of respect. He looked at Emily, then at Sarah, and for a moment the words caught in his throat. He took a deep breath. "Sarah, Emily," he began, his voice softer than they had ever heard it. "My name is Arthur Harrison. I am Clara Harrison's brother." The revelation hit them like a physical blow. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes widening with a mixture of shock and dawning recognition. Emily, though she didn't know the name Clara Harrison, felt the weight of the moment, seeing the profound impact on her mother. The air in the quiet cafe seemed to thicken, every sound fading into the background. Sarah finally found her voice, a whisper. "Mr. Harrison? Clara's brother. But I worked for your family. After Clara—" Her voice trailed off, overcome by a rush of memories. Sarah began to recount her fond memories of Clara, her voice filled with a bittersweet nostalgia. She spoke of Clara's infectious laugh, her boundless energy, and her incredible kindness. She remembered how Clara would share her art supplies with a tiny Emily, how she would sit for hours, patiently teaching the little girl to draw simple shapes, how they would often visit the park together, Clara sketching while Emily chased after butterflies. Sarah's eyes welled up as she described the close bond they had shared, a bond that had been abruptly severed. She spoke of her sadness, her confusion, and the lingering hurt at the sudden and unexplained end of her employment after Clara's death. "One day, everything was fine," she said, her voice cracking. "The next, I was told my services were no longer needed. No explanation, just a severance package." She looked at Mr. Harrison, a question in her eyes that had waited 15 years for an answer. Mr. Harrison listened, his gaze fixed on Sarah, then on Emily. He felt the full weight of his past actions, the callousness of his grief-stricken decisions. He humbly apologized, his voice thick with emotion. "Sarah, Emily, I am so deeply sorry," he said, his gaze unwavering. "I have no excuse for how I acted, for how I treated you. After she died, I fell apart. I couldn't cope. The pain was too much. I shut everyone out, especially those who reminded me of her. And you, Sarah, you reminded me of her joy, her spirit. I was a coward. I couldn't face it, and in my grief, I cut you off. I regret it more than words can say. I regret not looking out for you, for Emily. My reclusiveness, my isolation, it was all just a way to numb the pain, to escape from a reality I couldn't bear." He admitted his mistakes, his voice raw with sincerity. Emily, though initially confused by the intensity of the emotions, began to connect the dots. The man before them, the quiet stranger from the park, was her mother's former employer, Clara's brother. The name Clara, which her mother spoke with such reverence, was now linked directly to her own life, to her own art. She saw the resemblance between her drawings, the subjects she chose, the style her mother often praised, and the descriptions Mr. Harrison gave of Clara's art, a sense of profound connection to a past she never knew, a history that had shaped her, began to form within her. It was as if a missing piece of her own identity had just fallen into place. Mr. Harrison then produced a small, leather-bound album from his bag. He opened it, revealing old, faded photographs of Clara. Many of them featured a very young Emily, a tiny toddler with bright eyes, playing alongside Clara in the park, under the very oak tree Emily now frequented. There were pictures of Clara sketching with Emily beside her, Clara holding Emily's hand as they walked, Clara laughing, her arm around Sarah. Sarah gasped again, tears streaming down her face as she saw the tangible proof of those cherished moments. She confirmed the memories, adding details about Clara's boundless kindness, her infectious artistic spirit, her love for simple things. Emily saw herself as a child, unknowingly part of a cherished past, a silent witness to a bond that had been broken but never forgotten. The conversation that followed became a cathartic release of unspoken grief and longing for all three of them. Mr. Harrison, for the first time in years, allowed himself to confront his buried emotions, the raw pain of losing his sister, the guilt of his subsequent actions. Sarah shared her own quiet sorrow, the years of wondering what had happened, the silent grief for a young woman she had loved like family. Emily, seeing the profound impact of a past she was unaware of, felt a deep empathy, a new understanding of her mother's quiet strength and her own artistic leanings. The cafe, once just a neutral space, became a sanctuary for their shared history. Taking another deep breath, Mr. Harrison looked directly at Emily. "Emily," he said, his gaze warm and earnest, "I've seen your art. I know you have a remarkable talent, a gift that reminds me so much of Clara's. I want to honor her memory by nurturing your potential. I want to support your artistic education, your career, in any way I can." He then turned to Sarah. "And Sarah, I want to make amends for everything, for the years of silence, for the pain I caused. I want to ensure you both have the security and comfort you deserve." Sarah was hesitant, her ingrained pride warring with the overwhelming sincerity of Mr. Harrison's words. She was wary of Charity, but deeply moved by his genuine remorse and his desire to connect. Emily, overwhelmed by the suddenness of the offer, felt a surge of hope and validation for her passion, a dream she had quietly nurtured but never dared to fully articulate. The meeting ended with a tentative agreement to explore the possibilities, a fragile hope hanging in the air. This emotional encounter marked a significant turning point in all their lives. It initiated a process of healing and reconciliation, a bridge built across years of silence and unspoken grief. The emotional walls around Mr. Harrison began to crumble, replaced by a sense of purpose and connection. A new path, full of potential and unexpected kindness, opened for Emily and Sarah. The shared past, once a source of pain and mystery, had brought them together in an unexpected and profound way, setting the stage for a future none of them could have imagined. The tentative agreement quickly solidified into a concrete plan, marking the beginning of a profound new chapter for Emily, Sarah, and even Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison, true to his word, wasted no time. He enrolled Emily in a prestigious art school, one known for nurturing exceptional talent and providing a rigorous, inspiring environment. He didn't just pay the tuition. He ensured Emily had everything she needed: quality art supplies, a comfortable studio space, and access to mentorship that would truly challenge and develop her skills. Emily, still a little overwhelmed by the sudden shift in her life, embraced this incredible opportunity with an enthusiasm that surprised even herself. She dedicated herself to her studies, spending countless hours in the studio, sketching, painting, and absorbing every lesson. Her talent, once a quiet, personal pursuit, began to truly flourish under professional guidance, like a flower finally given the right soil and sunlight. For Sarah, the change was equally transformative. Mr. Harrison, with quiet dignity, ensured she was well compensated and cared for. He offered her a comfortable retirement, free from the demanding physical labor she had endured for so long. Sarah, initially resistant to accepting what felt like charity, eventually yielded to Mr. Harrison's insistence, understanding it was not charity, but a genuine act of restitution and care. She found a peace and a sense of security she hadn't known in years, a quiet comfort that allowed her to truly relax for the first time in her adult life. Proud beyond words of Emily's burgeoning success, Sarah remained a constant, supportive figure in her daughter's life. Her quiet strength, a solid foundation for Emily's soaring dreams. She often visited Emily at her new studio, bringing homemade snacks and offering words of encouragement, her eyes shining with a joy that had long been absent. Mr. Harrison, too, underwent a remarkable transformation. He began to shed the heavy cloak of reclusiveness that had defined his life for so long. The walls he had built around himself, brick by brick, after Clara's death, slowly started to crumble. He actively participated in Emily's new life, attending her art shows and school exhibitions, offering genuine encouragement and quiet praise. He found immense joy in witnessing her growth, her creativity, and in the way her art, so vibrant and full of life, echoed the spirit of his beloved sister Clara. Seeing Emily's talent unfold was like watching a part of Clara come alive again. A beautiful, unexpected second chance at connection and purpose. His home, once an austere fortress of isolation, began to feel warmer, more welcoming, filled with the occasional laughter and conversation of new, cherished connections. The park, that central stage for so much of their story, once a place of quiet solitude for Emily and a distant observation point for Mr. Harrison, now became a place of shared memories and new beginnings. They sometimes visited it together, walking its paths, reminiscing about Clara and discussing Emily's latest artistic projects. The old oak tree, under which Emily had spent so many hours sketching, stood as a silent, steadfast witness to their unfolding story, a powerful symbol of the bridge that had been built between their pasts. It was a place where old wounds could heal and new dreams could take root. As Emily's artistic skills rapidly developed, so did her confidence and self-esteem. She began to exhibit her work in local galleries, gaining recognition in the art world for her unique blend of classical technique and fresh contemporary vision. Her art often incorporated themes of memory, nature, and resilience, subtly referencing her own extraordinary journey and the intertwined lives that had shaped her. Each brushstroke seemed to tell a story, a testament to the power of art to heal and connect. Inspired by his rekindled relationship with Emily and Sarah, Mr. Harrison actively worked to rebuild other family bonds that had withered over the years. He reconnected with estranged relatives, sharing stories of Clara, ensuring her memory was not only preserved, but celebrated. His newfound openness brought a breath of fresh air into his life, replacing the suffocating silence of his grief with the warmth of human connection. He found that sharing his story, rather than hiding from it, brought a profound sense of liberation. Crucially, Emily also delved into Clara's old sketchbooks, which Mr. Harrison had carefully preserved. She spent hours studying her aunt's early work, tracing the lines, understanding the perspective. She found deep inspiration in Clara's nascent talent, creating a unique style that blended her own vision with Clara's legacy. This connection to her aunt, felt across time, strengthened her artistic identity, giving her work a depth and resonance that was truly her own. It was a dialogue between two artists, one gone too soon, the other finally finding her voice. At one of Emily's first major exhibitions, a significant milestone in her burgeoning career, Mr. Harrison stood by her side. In a heartfelt speech, he publicly acknowledged his sister Clara's profound influence on Emily's art. He shared their intertwined story with the gathered audience, speaking of grief, regret, and the unexpected beauty of rediscovery. It was a moment of profound closure, a public honoring of Clara's memory, and a testament to the powerful, redemptive journey they had all undertaken. The audience, moved by the raw honesty and emotion, gave them a standing ovation. The future, once uncertain and limited, now unfolded brightly for Emily, with a promising career ahead, rich with artistic possibilities. Mr. Harrison had found a new purpose, a renewed sense of family, and a depth of joy he thought was lost forever. Sarah, watching her daughter thrive, enjoyed a peaceful life, her heart full of gratitude and pride. The unexpected twists of fate had brought them all to a place of healing and hope, proving that even from profound loss, something beautiful could emerge. Emily's ascent in the art world was swift and remarkable. She became a renowned artist, her work celebrated across continents for its emotional depth and a unique style that resonated deeply with viewers. Her pieces often featured elements inspired by the park, the old oak tree, and the intricate dance of forgotten memories, subtly weaving in the threads of her own extraordinary story. She didn't just create art. She told stories with her canvases, narratives that spoke of resilience, connection, and the unexpected beauty found in shared histories. With her growing platform, Emily became a passionate advocate for aspiring artists from humble backgrounds, ensuring that talent, not privilege, determined who got a chance to shine. She established mentorship programs and often spoke at schools, sharing her journey and inspiring a new generation to pursue their dreams, regardless of their starting point. Inspired by Emily's journey and the poignant echo of Clara's unfinished artistic dreams, Mr. Harrison underwent a profound transformation. He established a foundation in Clara's name, a living testament to his sister's spirit and a powerful vehicle for positive change. The Clara Harrison Foundation provided generous scholarships, art supplies, and mentorship opportunities for talented young artists who, like Emily once was, lacked the resources to pursue their passion. He dedicated an unprecedented amount of his time and wealth to this philanthropic endeavor, finding a deep, abiding purpose that had eluded him for decades. The foundation became his life's work, a way to honor Clara not just in memory, but through the tangible creation of beauty and opportunity for others. His days, once filled with sterile corporate dealings, now buzzed with the vibrant energy of artistic expression and the joyful discovery of new talent. Sarah, Emily's mother, lived a life of quiet contentment and immense pride. Witnessing her daughter's spectacular success, she no longer worked as a maid, having been provided with a comfortable home and a secure future by Mr. Harrison, a gesture that allowed her to finally rest and enjoy her golden years. She often attended Emily's exhibitions, a quiet and dignified presence in the bustling galleries, her eyes shining with unshed tears of joy as she watched her daughter explain her latest masterpiece. Each piece Emily created was a testament to Sarah's sacrifices, a beautiful outcome of years of quiet dedication. Her wildest dreams for Emily had not only been realized, but surpassed in ways she could never have imagined. She found immense satisfaction in knowing that her hard work had paved the way for such a flourishing life. The park, the silent, steadfast witness to their unfolding story, remained a place of profound significance. It was no longer just a local green space. It had become a beloved landmark, a symbol of hope and connection. It was now a popular spot for artists, many of whom were inspired by Emily's story and the foundation that bore Clara's name. A small, elegant plaque was eventually placed near the old oak tree, subtly honoring Clara Harrison and her enduring artistic spirit, inviting visitors to reflect on the power of art and the unexpected turns of life. The tree, once a solitary comfort for Emily, now stood as a beacon for a wider community, its branches whispering tales of past and present. Emily, driven by a deep reverence and love, created a special series of artworks dedicated directly to Clara. In these pieces, she ingeniously incorporated Clara's original, delicate sketches into her own bold, contemporary compositions. This collection, a dialogue between two generations of artists, received critical acclaim, lauded for its innovative approach and profound emotional resonance. It served as a powerful, visual tribute, bridging the gap between past and present, and visually telling the intricate story of their intertwined lives and the enduring power of family, both by blood and by spirit. It was a masterpiece of homage, a conversation across time, and a testament to the idea that art could truly transcend death. Mr. Harrison found a genuine happiness and a renewed sense of purpose in his new role as a patron of the arts and a cherished family figure. His past grief, once a heavy cloak of isolation, was transformed into a powerful source of inspiration and compassion, fueling his philanthropic efforts. He was no longer the reclusive, distant billionaire, but a man deeply connected to his community, his family, and most importantly, his own heart. The warmth of human connection had thawed the ice around his soul, revealing a kindness and generosity that had long been buried under layers of sorrow. He smiled more, laughed more, and found immense joy in the simple acts of giving and sharing. The story of Emily, Sarah, and Mr. Harrison, once a private saga of grief and rediscovery, became an inspiring tale that spread far beyond their immediate circle. It was a narrative of second chances, the transformative power of art, and the unexpected ways in which profound connections can emerge from the shadows of the past. It highlighted the critical importance of empathy, encouraging people to look beyond superficial differences and to recognize the inherent worth and potential in every individual. Their story impacted countless others, fostering a greater sense of kindness, understanding, and shared humanity within their community and beyond. It was a testament to the idea that even the most broken pieces could be reassembled into something beautiful and meaningful. The Clara Harrison Foundation continued to grow, expanding its reach and supporting an ever-increasing number of talented young artists. It truly kept Clara's artistic spirit alive for generations, ensuring that her passion for art continued to inspire and empower. Emily often mentored these young artists, sharing not just her technical knowledge but also the wisdom gained from her own extraordinary journey, guiding them with a gentle hand and an understanding heart. The legacy extended far beyond just art, fostering a vibrant community of creators, dreamers, and innovators, instilling hope where there was once despair. The quiet strength of the bond forged between Emily, Sarah, and Mr. Harrison remained the heart of their story. It was a testament to how even the most painful pasts could lead to beautiful and utterly unexpected futures. Their lives, once disparate and isolated, had become inextricably linked, woven together by fate, art, and an unwavering compassion. Their story, still unfolding, continued with a sense of lasting peace, profound connection, and the promise of many more chapters yet to be written. Years later, Emily, now a celebrated artist whose work graced galleries worldwide, found herself drawn back to the old park. The familiar path, worn smooth by countless footsteps, led her directly to the ancient oak tree. She sat on the same wooden bench she had occupied almost every evening for so many years, a place that now held layers of profound significance. As her fingers traced the weathered grain of the wood, she reflected on the incredible journey that had taken her from a quiet maid's daughter, sketching dreams in a worn notebook, to a renowned artist whose creations spoke to millions. The air felt different here, thick with memories, yet vibrant with the promise of new ones. Sarah, Emily's mother, now lived a peaceful, comfortable life. Her days of tireless labor were long behind her, replaced by quiet contentment and the warmth of a home filled with love. She cherished every moment, often sitting by the window, a gentle smile on her face, watching the world go by. She took immense pride in Emily's achievements, a silent witness to the beautiful life her daughter had built. A life that was, in many ways, a testament to Sarah's own sacrifices and unwavering love. Her memories were a treasure trove, each one polished by time, and she knew in her heart that every hardship had been worth it for this peaceful twilight. Mr. Harrison, though also older, remained a vibrant and active figure. His hair might have been a little grayer, and his steps a little slower, but his spirit was brighter than ever. He was still deeply involved with the Clara Harrison Foundation, which had grown into a major philanthropic institution, supporting countless artists globally. He found immense joy and fulfillment in the success stories of the young talents it nurtured, seeing in each one a spark of Clara's passion. The reclusive billionaire of the past was truly gone, replaced by a respected and beloved figure, a man whose compassion had reshaped not only his own life, but the lives of so many others. His past reclusiveness was now a distant, almost unbelievable memory. As Emily sat there, a fresh sketchbook open on her lap, she began to sketch the familiar contours of the oak tree. With each line, she felt an almost palpable connection to Clara. It wasn't just a memory, it was an unseen presence, a gentle guidance that seemed to flow through her hand and inspire her art. The rustling leaves of the old oak tree seemed to whisper stories, not just of the past, of Clara's laughter and her own childhood dreams, but also of the future, of the countless possibilities yet to unfold. It was a beautiful, comforting feeling, a sense of continuity that transcended time. The park itself, especially the majestic oak tree, had transformed into more than just green space. It had become a living symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of dreams. It represented the full circle of their story, from hidden talent discovered by chance to a celebrated legacy that had touched many lives. Many people now visited the park specifically because of the inspiring story associated with it, seeking out the very bench where a young girl had first dared to dream. It was a place where history and hope intertwined, a testament to the unexpected beauty that could emerge from sorrow. Emily had recently completed what many critics hailed as her masterpiece. It was a monumental artwork, a sprawling canvas that seemed to breathe with life, directly inspired by the park, by Clara's spirit, and by her own extraordinary journey. This piece was a visual symphony of memory, art, and connection, weaving together elements of nature, human emotion, and the intricate tapestry of their shared past. It encapsulated the entire narrative, a powerful visual poem that became her most famous and iconic work, cementing her place in art history. It wasn't just a painting, it was a story told in color and form, a legacy made tangible. The story of the maid's daughter and the billionaire who had helped her realize her dreams had become more than just a local legend. It was a cherished tale that resonated deeply within the community and beyond. It taught profound lessons about compassion, the beauty of second chances, and the hidden potential that lies within every individual, regardless of their circumstances. Their story was celebrated, remembered, and retold, a constant reminder of the transformative power of empathy and connection. It was a narrative that inspired kindness and understanding, fostering a stronger, more compassionate society. Emily, Mr. Harrison, and Sarah maintained a close, loving family bond that had only deepened with time. They often gathered, sharing stories, laughter, and the quiet joy of their shared journey. Their lives, once so disparate, were now beautifully intertwined, a rich tapestry woven by fate, choice, and an unbreakable bond of affection. They were a testament to the idea that family could be found in the most unexpected places, forged not just by blood, but by shared experiences and a profound mutual respect. The narrative concluded with the powerful idea that while lives would continue to change and people would inevitably grow older, the echoes of their story, the art, the compassion, the connections forged under the old oak tree, would resonate for generations to come. The maid's daughter, the billionaire, and the park were forever linked in a tale of unexpected destiny, a story that would continue to inspire and remind everyone of the lasting positive change that a single act of kindness and understanding could bring. It was a satisfying and impactful end, a testament to the enduring human spirit and the beautiful, unpredictable journey of life. Emily, a young woman barely out of her teens, moved with a quiet rhythm through the city streets each evening. Her days were a blur of small tasks, a steady stream of work that left her tired but never truly drained. As the sun dipped below the tall buildings, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Emily's steps would instinctively turn towards the old city park. This walk was her daily ritual, a predictable comfort in a life that offered few surprises. Every day after her shift, She would make her way to this green space, a pocket of calm amidst the urban sprawl. It was a simple, unwavering routine, a thread of consistency she held onto tightly. The park itself was more than just a public space for Emily. It was her sanctuary. The air here always felt a little cleaner, the sounds a little softer. The rustle of leaves in the breeze replaced the constant hum of traffic, and the distant laughter of children offered a gentle counterpoint to the city's harsh symphony. This place was where she found peace, a quiet corner of the world where she could just be. Her favorite spot was a weathered wooden bench tucked away under the sprawling branches of an ancient oak tree. From here, she could watch the city lights flicker to life, appearing like scattered diamonds on a dark velvet cloth. It was her escape, a brief pause before heading back to the small apartment she shared with her mother. Far above the park, in a penthouse that seemed to touch the clouds, lived Mr. Harrison. He was a billionaire, a name synonymous with power and an empire built on steel and ambition. His life was a whirlwind of high-stakes decisions, constant demands, and an opulence that most people couldn't even imagine. Yet, despite all his wealth and influence, Mr. Harrison lived a life largely detached from the ordinary. He was a reclusive man, known for his sharp mind and even sharper tongue, but few knew the quiet emotional struggles that lay beneath his formidable exterior. His world was one of numbers and deals, a universe far removed from the simple beauty of a park at dusk. It started subtly, almost without his conscious notice. From his towering window, Mr. Harrison had an unobstructed view of the park below. He would often find himself staring out, his thoughts miles away, when he'd catch a glimpse of the same young woman, day after day, making her way to the same bench. He didn't know her name or anything about her, but her consistency was striking. She was always there, a tiny, predictable figure in a world of constant change. He noticed her quiet demeanor, the way she seemed to melt into the shadows, observing rather than participating. A flicker of curiosity, an emotion he rarely felt, began to stir within him. It was a rare feeling for a man who believed he had seen and understood everything worth knowing. As Emily sat on her bench, she would often gaze at the city lights, wondering about the lives lived behind those illuminated windows. She knew her own life was simple, defined by her mother's demanding job and their modest circumstances. But the park allowed her to dream, to imagine possibilities beyond her current reality. It offered a temporary escape, a mental vacation from the constant awareness of her mother's sacrifices. She dreamed of a life where she could create, where she could express the swirling thoughts and images that often filled her mind. The park, with its quiet solitude, was the perfect place to nurture these unspoken longings. Her mother, Sarah, was a maid. She worked tirelessly, her hands rough from years of cleaning, her back often aching. Sarah was a dedicated woman, her entire life focused on providing for Emily. Every extra shift, every penny saved, was for Emily's future, for opportunities Sarah herself never had. Emily was acutely aware of her mother's struggles, the silent sacrifices made each day. This awareness fueled a quiet determination within Emily, a resolve to make her mother's efforts worthwhile, to somehow rise above their current situation. She knew her mother deserved more, and so did she. Mr. Harrison found himself increasingly drawn to the mystery of the girl in the park. His daily routine, once rigidly structured around business calls and market analyses, now included a moment of watching her. Her quiet presence was a stark contrast to the cacophony of his own life. He felt an unfamiliar pull, a desire to understand her simple world. Why did she come to the park every night? What did she think about? It was an odd fascination for a man who usually only cared about things he could buy or control. He couldn't quite explain it, but her image had begun to lodge itself in his mind. Sometimes, as he watched Emily, a brief, almost subconscious flicker of a memory would surface for Mr. Harrison. It was vague, like a half-forgotten dream, connected to the park, or perhaps a similar scene from a long-lost past. A sense of unease would wash over him, a feeling that something important was just out of reach. He couldn't grasp it, couldn't quite put his finger on what it was, but it left him with a strange, melancholic feeling. It was a whisper from a part of his life he had long since locked away. The more he watched, the more compelled Mr. Harrison felt. His initial curiosity had deepened into something more profound. He made a subtle decision, an almost imperceptible shift in his usual solitary existence. He would learn more about her. He felt an inexplicable urge to understand why this young woman, this quiet stranger, held his attention so completely. He didn't know why, but he knew he had to find out. The stage was now set for his direct involvement, a deviation from his carefully constructed, isolated world. He was about to step out of his penthouse and into her park. Mr. Harrison knew a direct approach wouldn't work. He was a man of power, but also a man who understood discretion. He didn't want to scare Emily away or make her feel like an object of scrutiny. So, he tasked his assistant, a sharp, efficient woman named Ms. Davies, with gathering information. He made it clear that this needed to be handled with extreme care. No alarm bells, no official inquiries that might raise questions. He just needed basic facts, enough to satisfy his growing curiosity. Ms. Davies, accustomed to her boss's often unusual requests, went to work. A few days later, she presented him with a concise report. Emily's full name was Emily Davis. Her mother, Sarah Davis, was indeed a maid, currently working for a prominent family on the other side of the city. Their address was modest, their life simple. No criminal records, no outstanding debts, just an ordinary young woman and her hard-working mother. The report confirmed everything Mr. Harrison had observed, yet it also left him wanting more. The facts were there, but the essence of Emily, the quiet magic he saw in her, was missing from the dry words on the page. What Ms. Davies' report couldn't capture was Emily's secret passion: sketching. Every evening, hidden in her worn backpack, was a small, spiral-bound sketchbook and a set of well-used pencils. The park was her studio, her inspiration. As the sun dipped below the city skyline, painting the clouds in hues of orange and purple, Emily would settle onto her usual bench and let her hand guide the pencil. Her drawings weren't grand masterpieces, but they held a quiet beauty. She sketched the gnarled branches of the old oak tree, the playful antics of squirrels, the distant city lights, and sometimes the faces of passers-by. Other times, her sketches were more abstract, swirling lines and shapes that tried to capture the feelings that buzzed inside her. The unspoken dreams and the quiet hopes. It was her escape, a way to process the world around her, to give form to the emotions she rarely expressed. One particular evening, Mr. Harrison was observing from his penthouse window, a ritual he now found himself performing without conscious thought. Emily was there, as always, under the oak tree. Her head was bent, her hand moving rhythmically across a page. He saw her pause, hold up her sketchbook, and then quickly close it as if protecting its contents. But in that brief moment, a flash of color, a hint of intricate detail, caught his eye. It wasn't just idle doodling. It looked like real art. This observation deepened his intrigue. It wasn't just the girl in the park anymore. It was the artist in the park. His curiosity shifted from her routine to her inner world, to what she chose to create. This unexpected glimpse of her talent added another layer to the enigma she represented. The report had also mentioned Emily's mother, Sarah, worked for a well-known family. While not directly connected to Mr. Harrison, he recognized the name. They were part of the city's old money, a family with a long-standing reputation. He knew Sarah must be a good, reliable worker to be employed by them. It spoke to her character, her quiet dedication. It wasn't just Emily who seemed to possess a quiet strength. Her mother did too. This subtle connection to the wider, elite circles of the city, even through her mother's work, made Emily feel a little less distant, a little more real in his world. Mr. Harrison found himself increasingly captivated by Emily's quiet, artistic pursuit. He spent more time watching her, trying to decipher the stories in her movements, the expressions on her face as she sketched. He wondered about her inner world, so different from his own, yet so compelling. He lived a life of constant noise, demands, and strategic maneuvers. She lived a life of quiet observation and creation. It was a stark contrast, and he found himself drawn to its peacefulness. His observations became more frequent, more focused, a quiet obsession taking root in his mind. Emily, for her part, remained completely oblivious to the billionaire's attention. She was too engrossed in her own world, too focused on the lines and shades appearing on her page. She continued her routine, finding solace and creative expression in the park, unaware of the powerful eyes watching her. Her focus was entirely on her art, on capturing the fleeting beauty of the evening, or the complex emotions that swirled within her. She was in her own bubble, a peaceful haven where she could simply be. As Mr. Harrison watched Emily, the fragmented memories he'd experienced before started to become more vivid, more insistent. They were still disjointed, like pieces of a broken mirror, but the images were clearer. A park, a young girl, laughter, and then a profound sense of loss, a chilling emptiness. The memories involved a specific oak tree, very similar to the one Emily sat under. He could almost hear a child's voice, almost feel a tiny hand in his. The connection remained elusive, just out of reach, but it was growing stronger, pulling at him with an undeniable force. It was unsettling, but also compelling. Driven by this deepening curiosity and the unsettling memories, Mr. Harrison made a decision. He had to approach her. He couldn't just watch from afar anymore. He needed to understand. He started to plan his first direct interaction, considering how to do it without startling her, without making her uncomfortable. He knew he couldn't just walk up and introduce himself as a billionaire who had been watching her. That would be too much. His usual calculated approach to business deals was now tinged with an unusual nervousness, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. He felt a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. The scene was set. Mr. Harrison, a man who rarely left the confines of his carefully curated world, found himself making his way towards the park. It was a rare departure from his usual isolated existence, a step into the unknown. He was about to cross the invisible barrier, to step into Emily's world. He was unaware of the profound impact this simple act would have, not just on Emily, but on his own life. The anticipation of their first meeting hung in the air, thick with unspoken possibilities. He walked with purpose, a stranger about to become a presence. Mr. Harrison took a deep breath, the cool evening air filling his lungs. He walked a little slower as he neared the park bench where Emily was sketching. He had dressed simply, in a plain jacket and trousers, hoping to blend in. He didn't want to look like the CEO he was. As he approached, he made sure his steps were audible but not startling. Emily looked up, her pencil pausing over the page. Her eyes, wide and a little surprised, met his for a brief moment. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm, trying to sound like any casual passerby. "That's a beautiful view, isn't it? The way the light hits the trees this time of evening." He gestured vaguely towards the setting sun. Emily nodded slowly, a slight blush rising on her cheeks. She seemed a little shy. "Yes, it really is," she replied, her voice soft. She closed her sketchbook gently, resting it on her lap. Mr. Harrison gave her a small, reassuring smile. He didn't want to scare her off. He sat down on the far end of the bench, leaving a comfortable space between them. "I often walk through here," he continued, making up a plausible reason for his presence. "It's a nice escape from the city noise. I noticed you here most evenings. You seem to find a lot of peace in this spot." Emily looked down at her hands, then back up at him. "I do," she admitted. "It's my favorite part of the day. After work, it's just quiet." She didn't offer more, but her eyes held a hint of gratitude for his understanding. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the park filling the space between them. A bird chirped overhead, and the distant murmur of traffic was muted by the trees. Mr. Harrison found himself enjoying the quiet, the simple presence of another person without any demands or expectations. It was a rare feeling for him. "You were sketching, weren't you?" he asked gently, trying to steer the conversation towards her art without being too direct. He remembered the flash of her drawings from his penthouse window. Emily's eyes widened slightly again, and she instinctively tightened her grip on her sketchbook. "Oh, just a little," she said, a hint of embarrassment in her tone. "It's nothing special." "I doubt that," Mr. Harrison said, his tone warm. "Art is rarely nothing special. It's a way of seeing the world through different eyes." As he spoke, something shifted. Emily, perhaps relaxing a little, moved her hands. Her sketchbook, which she had been holding tightly, slipped a little from her grasp. It didn't fall to the ground, but it opened slightly, just enough for Mr. Harrison to catch a glimpse of the page. It was a drawing of the very oak tree they were sitting under, rendered with delicate lines and subtle shading. The details were exquisite, capturing the texture of the bark and the intricate patterns of the leaves. "Oh!" Emily quickly tried to close it, her face reddening. "Wait," Mr. Harrison said, a genuine sense of admiration in his voice. "That's beautiful, truly. The way you've captured the light. It's really something." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze fixed on the drawing. He wasn't just being polite. He was genuinely impressed. The skill was undeniable. Emily hesitated, then slowly let the book rest open on her lap. She seemed surprised by his earnest compliment. "Thank you," she mumbled, still looking a little shy. "It's just a hobby, something I do to unwind." "A hobby with immense talent, then," he corrected gently. He pointed to a specific detail in the drawing, a small knot on the tree trunk. "You even got that little imperfection. It makes it feel so real." As he looked at the drawing, something strange happened inside Mr. Harrison. A powerful wave of déjà vu washed over him, stronger and more vivid than ever before. It wasn't just a fleeting feeling. It was almost a physical sensation, like a sudden chill running down his spine. He saw that specific knot on the tree trunk, and for a split second he saw another hand, much smaller, sketching the exact same detail. A little girl, with bright, curious eyes, focused intensely on her paper. The image was fleeting, but it hit him with an unexpected force. It was a memory, almost fully formed, but still just out of reach. It was a memory of Clara, his sister, drawing that very same tree a long, long time ago. He blinked, trying to clear his head, to make sense of the sudden rush of emotion. The connection was there, undeniable, but still hazy. Why did Emily's drawing, her talent, trigger such a powerful, almost painful memory? He felt an urgent need to understand why Emily and her art felt so familiar, why they stirred such deep, buried feelings within him. This went beyond simple curiosity. There was a deeper, emotional connection that he couldn't ignore. I have to go, he said abruptly, standing up. The words came out a little more sharply than he intended. He felt a sudden jolt of panic, a desperate need to process this new, unsettling information alone. He knew he needed to investigate this further, to understand the source of this profound familiarity. Emily looked startled by his sudden departure. "Oh, okay," she said, closing her sketchbook completely this time. "I hope to see you here again," he managed to say, forcing a more composed tone. "And please, don't stop drawing. Your talent is truly remarkable." He gave her another small nod, then turned and walked away, his mind racing. He didn't wait for her reply, needing to put distance between himself and the unsettling clarity of that almost memory. Emily watched him go, a mix of confusion and a faint flutter of something else in her chest. The stranger was odd, but his compliments had felt genuine. She reflected on the unusual encounter. His interest in her art was peculiar, but not unwelcome. It had been a long time since anyone had truly seen her work, let alone praised it with such sincerity. A small seed of hope or wonder was planted within her, a tiny spark in her otherwise predictable routine. Who was that man? And why did he seem so familiar, somehow? Back in the sterile, quiet confines of his penthouse, Mr. Harrison was far from calm. The fragmented memory, triggered by Emily's drawing, looped in his mind. He paced his office, the city lights below a blur. He knew this wasn't just a coincidence. He called his assistant. His voice, usually calm and measured, held an edge of urgency. "I need you to dig deeper," he instructed, his words clipped. "Everything you can find on Emily and her mother, Sarah. And specifically, I need you to look into any connections, any employment history they might have had with my family. Years ago. Think back to Clara." The name, his sister's name, felt heavy on his tongue, a name he rarely spoke aloud. "Look for anything to do with the park, a specific oak tree, drawings. Anything." He provided vague clues from his memories, hoping they would lead somewhere, hoping to unlock the full picture that was now so close, yet still agonizingly out of reach. He didn't explicitly state it, but the memory of Clara, and the profound sense of loss that came with it, was the source of his reclusiveness, his emotional guardedness. Her sudden death had shattered his world, and he had built walls around himself to protect against that kind of pain ever again. He had buried everything associated with that time, including the people. Now, looking at Emily's drawing, those walls felt like they were crumbling. He felt an unseen threat, the ghost of a past tragedy, lingering just behind the veil of his memory, ready to step out into the light. The next morning, Mr. Harrison's assistant, a sharp young woman named Ms. Davies, walked into his office with a stack of files. Her expression was grave, a stark contrast to her usual composed demeanor. Mr. Harrison looked up, a knot tightening in his stomach. He knew, instinctively, that she had found something significant. "Sir," Ms. Davies began, her voice low, "I believe I have the information you requested. It was more challenging to connect than anticipated, given the time elapsed and the discreet nature of the prior arrangements. She placed a folder on his large mahogany desk. Mr. Harrison reached for it, his hands trembling slightly, a rare display of nerves for him. He opened the folder. Inside, he saw documents, old employment records, and faded photographs. His eyes scanned the first page. It was a record of domestic staff employed by his late sister, Clara Harrison. And there, under the heading Maid Household Assistant, was the name. Sarah Miller, Emily's mother. The dates confirmed it. Sarah Miller had worked for Clara for several years, right up until Clara's death. A cold wave washed over Mr. Harrison, then a burning rush of heat. It all clicked into place with a horrifying clarity. Sarah Miller had been Clara's maid, and then, a few pages deeper, a small, blurry photo. It showed a smiling Clara, sitting on a park bench, holding the hand of a tiny girl with bright eyes and dark hair. The girl was unmistakably Emily, as a toddler, sitting on the very same bench, under what looked like the same old oak tree he had seen from his window for years. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Ms. Davies continued, her voice gentle. It appears Ms. Miller was employed directly by your sister. After Ms. Clara Harrison's unfortunate accident, the household was disbanded rather quickly. There was no formal transfer of staff, and Ms. Miller simply moved on. There was no record of any ill will, simply a reorganization in the wake of the tragedy. Mr. Harrison barely heard her. His mind was no longer in the sterile office. It was flooded with memories, a torrent of suppressed images and feelings he had locked away for nearly 2 decades. He remembered Clara, vibrant and full of life, her infectious laugh, her passion for art. He remembered her small studio in their childhood home, filled with canvases and the smell of paint. He remembered her sketchbooks, always overflowing with drawings of nature, of people, of the park. He remembered Clara talking about little Emily, the maid's daughter. Clara had adored Emily. She used to say Emily was her little muse, a tiny, bright spark. He remembered Clara often taking Emily to the very same park, pushing her on the swings, teaching her to identify different birds. He had dismissed it then, just a fleeting image of his sister being kind to a child. But now, it was so much more. He recalled Clara's artistic style. She loved drawing the park, its winding paths, the ducks on the pond, and especially the ancient, majestic oak tree. She had a distinctive way of capturing light and shadow, a certain fluidity in her lines. And now he understood why Emily's sketches had felt so familiar, why that particular detail in her drawing had triggered such a powerful sense of déjà vu. Emily's art was not just similar. It was an echo, a continuation of Clara's unspoken legacy. Clara had been an aspiring artist herself, and now, through Emily, her spirit lived on. Then came the sharp, agonizing memory of Clara's sudden death. A car accident, unexpected, brutal, and utterly devastating. The world had gone dark for him then. He had buried his grief under layers of work, reclusiveness, and a cold, hard shell. He had cut off all connections to that painful period, including the people who were part of it. He hadn't wanted to be reminded. He hadn't wanted to feel. He buried his face in his hands, the weight of his past actions pressing down on him. Emily, too young to remember Clara clearly, had unknowingly continued a legacy, a beautiful thread connecting her to a woman she barely knew. Her artistic talent, her love for the park, her preference for that specific bench under the oak tree. It wasn't just coincidence. It was Clara's influence, passed down through the quiet encouragement of her mother, Sarah. Sarah, who must have carried the memory of Clara and of that happier time in her heart all these years. A wave of guilt, heavy and suffocating, washed over Mr. Harrison. Guilt for not recognizing Emily sooner. Guilt for having completely cut off ties with Sarah after Clara's death, a woman who had been so kind to his sister, a woman who had clearly cherished Clara's memory. He had been so consumed by his own pain that he had effectively abandoned a living connection to his beloved sister. He had been cold, uncaring, thinking only of his own shattered world. His reclusiveness, his emotional distance, had been a shield against pain, but it had also cost him so much. He remembered Sarah's quiet strength, her dignified presence. She had never spoken ill of the Harrisons, even after her employment ended so abruptly. She had simply carried on, raising her daughter, nurturing Emily's talent, perhaps as a silent tribute to Clara. Mr. Harrison looked up, his eyes now blazing with a new kind of intensity. His initial curiosity about Emily had transformed into something profound, a powerful sense of responsibility, a desperate desire for redemption. He saw Emily not just as a talented young woman, but as a living embodiment of Clara's spirit, a second chance to honor his sister and right the wrongs of his past. He knew he had to approach them, Emily and Sarah, but not as the anonymous park-goer, not with vague compliments. He had to face them with honesty, with humility, and with the full truth. He had to reveal his true identity, the shared past, and hope against all odds for forgiveness and understanding. The stage was set, not for another casual encounter, but for an emotional and potentially difficult confrontation, one that would force him to tear down the walls he had built around himself for so long. He took a deep, shaky breath. This was going to change everything. The next day, Mr. Harrison arranged a meeting. He didn't want to surprise them in the park again, not with the weight of what he now knew. He had his assistant call Sarah, explaining only that a matter concerning Clara needed to be discussed. He chose a quiet cafe, one known for its discretion, a place where they could talk without being overheard or disturbed. When Sarah and Emily arrived, their faces held a mix of confusion and apprehension. Mr. Harrison stood as they approached the table he had reserved. He introduced himself properly, not as just Mr. Harrison, the rich man, but as Clara's brother. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history. Sarah's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition, then a deeper, more complex emotion. Emily, beside her, looked from Mr. Harrison to her mother, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. The simple cafe setting suddenly felt charged. "Please sit," Mr. Harrison said, his voice softer than usual. He took a moment, gathering his thoughts before beginning. "I know this is unexpected. I owe you both an explanation and an apology." He looked directly at Sarah, his gaze unwavering. "Sarah, after Clara, after her accident, I fell apart. I couldn't cope. I pushed everyone away, and I regret deeply that included you. You were a good friend to Clara, and you were wonderful to Emily. I was consumed by my own grief, and I didn't think about anyone else." Sarah's initial shock gave way to a wave of visible emotion. Her hands trembled slightly as she clasped them in front of her. "Mr. Harrison, I didn't understand why I was let go so suddenly. Clara, she was like sunshine, and she loved Emily so much. It broke my heart not to be around the family anymore, especially after everything." Her voice was quiet, laced with years of unspoken sadness. She recounted fond memories of Clara, her laughter, her kindness, the way she would draw little pictures for Emily. She spoke of Clara's dreams of becoming an artist, dreams tragically cut short. Mr. Harrison listened, each word a fresh cut of guilt, but also a balm. Hearing Sarah speak of Clara, he realized how much he had missed, how much he had shut out. He saw the pain in Sarah's eyes, a pain he had inadvertently caused and then ignored for far too long. "I was wrong," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Completely wrong. I should have reached out, should have supported you. My reclusiveness was a way to numb the pain, but it only made me blind. I allowed my grief to isolate me, and in doing so, I lost touch with the very people who carried Clara's memory closest." Emily, who had been quietly observing, now spoke. "My mom always talked about Miss Clara. She said she was the one who first gave me pencils and paper, even before I could really draw." Mr. Harrison nodded, a small, sad smile touching his lips. "Clara loved to draw. She had a wonderful eye. And she adored you, Emily. You were just a toddler, but she always said you had a special spark." He paused, then reached into a briefcase beside him. He pulled out a small, worn photo album. "I brought these. Some old photographs." He opened the album and slid it across the table. Sarah gasped softly as she saw the first picture. A young Clara, vibrant and smiling, holding a tiny Emily on her lap, both of them laughing in the park. Another photo showed Clara sketching under the very oak tree Emily now frequented, and in the foreground, a blurry image of a small child, unmistakably Emily, trying to mimic her. "The park." "The oak tree," Emily whispered, her eyes fixed on the images. "It's like I was always meant to go there." Sarah pointed to one sketch in the album, a quick drawing of the park's fountain. "Clara drew that on a napkin once. You used to color it in, Emily." Emily looked up at Mr. Harrison, a sense of profound connection dawning on her. The stranger's interest in her art, the strange familiarity, her own inexplicable pull to the park. It all began to make sense. It wasn't just a park. It was a memory, a shared space with a relative she never truly knew. The conversation flowed, a cathartic release of unspoken grief and longing for all three. Mr. Harrison finally confronted his buried emotions, tears welling in his eyes as he spoke of his sister, not as a distant memory, but as a vibrant, beloved person. Sarah, too, shared her quiet sorrow, her voice breaking at times as she recalled Clara's kindness. Emily, witnessing the raw emotion, felt a deep sadness for the tragedy that had shaped so much of her life, a tragedy she had been too young to fully comprehend. "Emily," Mr. Harrison said, his voice steadier now, but still filled with purpose. "Your art, it reminds me so much of Clara's spirit. It's like she's still here. I want to honor her memory and your talent. I want to support your artistic education, your career, whatever you need to pursue your passion." Emily was stunned, speechless. Sarah, however, looked at him with a cautious gratitude. "Mr. Harrison, that's very generous, but we don't want charity." "It's not charity, Sarah," he insisted, meeting her gaze. "It's about righting a wrong. It's about fulfilling a promise I didn't even know I was breaking. It's about honoring Clara's legacy through Emily. And for you, Sarah, I want to make amends. I want to ensure you are comfortable, secure. You've done so much for Emily and for Clara, and you deserve peace." Sarah was hesitant, wary of such a grand gesture, but deeply moved by his sincerity, the raw honesty in his eyes. Emily, overwhelmed, felt a surge of hope and validation for her passion, a dream that had always felt just out of reach. The meeting ended with a tentative agreement to explore the possibilities, to take the first steps. The encounter marked a significant turning point for all of them. The emotional walls around Mr. Harrison began to crumble, replaced by a sense of purpose and connection he hadn't felt in years. For Emily and Sarah, a new path had opened, one they never imagined. The shared past, once a source of hidden pain and mystery, had brought them together in the most unexpected and profound way, initiating a process of healing and reconciliation that promised to change their lives forever. The tentative agreement quickly blossomed into a concrete plan, marking the true beginning of Emily's artistic journey. Mr. Harrison spared no expense, ensuring Emily was enrolled in one of the most prestigious art schools in the country. He provided not just for tuition, but for all the necessary supplies, a comfortable living arrangement near the campus, and even a small stipend so she could focus entirely on her studies without the burden of part-time jobs. Emily, still reeling from the whirlwind of revelations, embraced this extraordinary opportunity with an enthusiasm she hadn't known she possessed. She dedicated herself entirely to her studies, spending countless hours in studios, libraries, and galleries. Her talent, once nurtured in secret and solitude, began to flourish under professional guidance, absorbing techniques and theories that expanded her vision beyond anything she had imagined. Sarah, too, experienced a profound shift in her life. Mr. Harrison, true to his word, ensured she was well compensated for her years of loyal service and the quiet sacrifices she had made. He offered her a choice: a comfortable retirement, a less demanding role within his household staff, or an entirely new path. Sarah, proud beyond measure of Emily's blossoming career, chose a peaceful retirement. She found a quiet apartment, filled it with plants, and finally had the time to indulge in her own hobbies, finding a sense of security and calm she hadn't known in decades. She remained an unwavering, supportive figure in Emily's life, a constant source of encouragement and love. Mr. Harrison himself underwent a remarkable transformation. The rigid, reclusive billionaire began to shed the layers of grief and isolation that had encased him for so long. He actively participated in Emily's new life, attending her student exhibitions, listening intently as she described her projects, and offering insightful critiques born from his own appreciation for art, an appreciation he had buried with Clara. He found a deep, unexpected joy in witnessing Emily's growth, her creativity, and the vibrant spirit that so strongly echoed his beloved sister. Through Emily, Clara's memory was not just preserved, it was actively celebrated and continued. The park, which had been a place of quiet solitude for Emily and a distant observation point for Mr. Harrison, now became a symbolic bridge between their pasts and a foundation for new beginnings. They sometimes visited it together, walking the familiar paths, reminiscing about Clara, and discussing Emily's latest artistic endeavors. It was there, under the shade of the old oak tree, that Mr. Harrison shared more stories of Clara's childhood, her dreams, and her unique way of seeing the world. The park became a tangible link, a place where memories were honored and new connections were forged, symbolizing the healing process for them all. As Emily's artistic skills developed, so did her confidence. She moved from student shows to local galleries, and eventually, her pieces began attracting attention from critics and collectors. Her art, deeply personal yet universally resonant, often incorporated themes of memory, the beauty of nature, and the quiet resilience of the human spirit. She began to gain recognition in the art world, not just as a talented emerging artist, but as a voice with something meaningful to say. Inspired by his rekindled connection with Emily and Sarah, and buoyed by the sense of purpose he had found, Mr. Harrison actively sought to rebuild other family bonds that had withered after Clara's death. He reached out to estranged cousins, aunts, and uncles, sharing stories of Clara, keeping her memory alive, not just for himself, but for a wider family circle. His home, once a cold and austere reflection of his isolation, slowly began to feel warmer, more welcoming, filled with laughter and the gentle hum of renewed connection. Emily, with Mr. Harrison's guidance, delved into Clara's old sketchbooks, which her uncle had carefully preserved. She spent hours studying Clara's distinctive lines, her unique perspective, and the raw emotion in her early work. She found inspiration in her aunt's pieces, creating a unique style that blended her own contemporary vision with Clara's legacy. This connection to Clara's art strengthened Emily's own artistic identity, giving her work a depth and resonance that set it apart. At one of Emily's first major, highly anticipated exhibitions, Mr. Harrison stood proudly beside her. During his opening remarks, he publicly acknowledged his sister Clara's profound influence on Emily's art. He shared their intertwined story, the serendipitous connection made through the park, and the poignant discovery of their shared artistic heritage. He spoke of Clara's dreams, her talent, and how Emily was now carrying that torch forward. The audience, moved by the powerful narrative of loss, discovery, and redemption, gave them a standing ovation. The future unfurled brightly for Emily, with a promising career stretching before her, filled with creative exploration and recognition. Mr. Harrison, no longer defined by his past grief, had found a new, profound purpose and a renewed sense of family. Sarah enjoyed a peaceful, dignified life, watching her daughter thrive, her quiet sacrifices culminating in a beautiful, unexpected triumph. The unexpected meeting in the park had not just changed their lives, it had woven them into a tapestry of hope and enduring connection. Emily's ascent in the art world continued with a steady, graceful momentum. Her exhibitions drew crowds, and her pieces, often large-scale and immersive, became highly sought after by collectors and institutions alike. Critics praised her for her emotional depth, the way she captured fleeting moments of beauty, and her unique ability to infuse her contemporary style with a timeless quality. Many of her most celebrated works featured subtle, evocative elements inspired by the park. The dappled light filtering through leaves, the quiet dignity of the old oak tree, the distant city skyline. Themes that quietly referenced her own journey and the discovery of her past. She never forgot where she came from, and she used her growing platform not just for personal gain, but to champion causes close to her heart. Emily became a vocal advocate for aspiring artists from humble backgrounds, speaking at universities and art schools, encouraging them to pursue their passions despite financial or social barriers. She believed art should be accessible to everyone, not just the privileged few, and her own story served as a powerful testament to that belief. Inspired by Emily's success and the profound impact Clara's memory had on their lives, Mr. Harrison took his philanthropy to a new level. He established the Clara Harrison Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering young artistic talent. The foundation provided comprehensive scholarships, mentorship programs, and studio residencies for promising artists who, like Emily, lacked the financial resources to pursue their dreams. It was a substantial undertaking, and Mr. Harrison poured his considerable wealth, time, and influence into making it a beacon of hope for countless individuals. He found immense satisfaction in this work, seeing it as a way to honor Clara's unfulfilled artistic dreams and ensure that her spirit of creativity lived on through others. This new purpose filled a void he hadn't even realized existed. transforming his life from one of isolated wealth to one of meaningful contribution. Sarah, Emily's mother, watched her daughter's rise with a quiet, profound contentment. She lived a life of comfort she had never imagined possible, free from the daily grind and anxieties that had once defined her existence. She often attended Emily's exhibitions, a dignified figure in the background, observing the crowds with a serene smile. Each brushstroke on Emily's canvases was a testament to the sacrifices Sarah had made, the dreams she had nurtured, and the unwavering belief she had in her daughter. Her life, once marked by quiet struggle, had blossomed into one of peaceful pride. Her journey a testament to the enduring power of a mother's love. The park, the silent catalyst for their intertwined destinies, retained its profound significance. It was no longer just a place of solace for Emily, or a distant observation point for Mr. Harrison. It had become a living monument to their story, a place of shared memory and new beginnings. Many artists, inspired by Emily's journey and the Clara Harrison Foundation, began to frequent the park, finding inspiration in its tranquil beauty. Eventually, a discreet, elegantly designed plaque was placed near the base of the old oak tree, subtly honoring Clara Harrison's memory and her enduring connection to the natural world. It was a simple tribute, understood by those who knew the story, and a quiet invitation for others to wonder. As a deeply personal homage to the aunt she never truly knew, Emily embarked on a special series of artworks, explicitly dedicated to Clara. She meticulously incorporated Clara's original sketches, which Mr. Harrison had carefully preserved, into her own large-scale, contemporary pieces. The result was a breathtaking dialogue between past and present, a visual narrative that wove Clara's nascent talent with Emily's mature artistry. This collection, titled Echoes of Clara, received widespread critical acclaim, hailed as a powerful and moving tribute. It visually narrated their unique connection, not just as family, but as kindred artistic spirits across generations. Mr. Harrison, once a reclusive figure shrouded in grief, found genuine happiness and profound emotional fulfillment in his new role. He was no longer just a successful businessman. He was a beloved patron of the arts, a mentor, and a cherished family figure. The grief that had once consumed him had been transformed, through Emily and the Foundation, into a powerful source of compassion and inspiration. His transformation was complete, a testament to the healing power of connection and purpose. He was no longer the isolated billionaire, but a man deeply connected to his community, his family, and his heart. The story of Emily, Sarah, and Mr. Harrison transcended their personal lives, becoming an inspiring tale repeated in hushed tones and public speeches. It was a narrative of second chances, of the transformative power of art, and of the unexpected ways profound connections can emerge from the shadows of the past. It resonated deeply with people from all walks of life, highlighting the importance of empathy, understanding, and looking beyond superficial differences. Their story impacted countless others, encouraging kindness, fostering a sense of community, and reminding everyone that hidden potential often lies in the most unexpected places. The Clara Harrison Foundation continued to flourish, growing into a major philanthropic institution. It supported thousands of young artists, ensuring that Clara's artistic spirit and passion for creativity would live on for generations. Emily, in turn, became a dedicated mentor to many of these young artists, sharing her own journey, offering guidance, and inspiring them to find their unique voice. The legacy extended far beyond just art, fostering a vibrant community united by creativity, hope, and the belief in the power of dreams. The quiet strength of the bond forged between Emily, Sarah, and Mr. Harrison remained the heart of their story. It was a testament to how even the most painful pasts, when confronted with courage and compassion, can lead to beautiful and unexpected futures. Their lives, once disparate and isolated, had become intricately woven together, a tapestry of fate, choice, and enduring love. Their story concluded not with a grand finale, but with a sense of lasting peace, profound connection, and the promise of a legacy that would continue to unfold. Years later, Emily, now a celebrated artist, whose name was recognized in galleries and art journals worldwide, found herself drawn back to the old park. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, the leaves under the ancient oak tree a riot of red and gold. She sat on the familiar bench, the same one where she had spent countless evenings sketching, dreaming, and finding solace. The bark of the oak felt rough and comforting under her fingertips, a silent witness to her entire journey. She looked across the expanse of green, a profound sense of gratitude washing over her. From a quiet maid's daughter, unsure of her place in the world, she had become an artist whose work spoke to millions, transforming her quiet passion into a powerful voice. The park was more than just a place. It was the starting point of everything. Sarah, Emily's mother, now lived a peaceful and well-deserved twilight. She resided in a comfortable home, a gift from Mr. Harrison, filled with light and warmth. Her days were spent tending a small garden, reading, and enjoying the quiet company of friends. The years of sacrifice and hard work were behind her, replaced by a deep contentment. She often received visitors, especially from the young artists supported by the Clara Harrison Foundation, who sought her wisdom and kind words. Sarah cherished her memories, particularly those of Clara, and the beautiful life Emily had built. Her daughter's success was her greatest joy, a testament to the enduring power of unconditional love and quiet determination. She would often smile, remembering the days when Emily would return from the park, her sketchbook clutched tight, her eyes alight with unspoken dreams. Mr. Harrison, too, had aged, his silver hair now fully white, but his spirit was more vibrant than ever. He remained actively involved with the Clara Harrison Foundation, which had grown into a major philanthropic institution, supporting art programs and scholarships across the country. He found immense joy and purpose in the success stories of the artists it supported, seeing in each budding talent a flicker of Clara's potential. He was no longer the reclusive figure he once was. His past reclusiveness was now a distant memory, replaced by a genuine connection to people and a profound sense of community. He was a respected and beloved figure, known not for his wealth alone, but for his compassion and his unwavering commitment to nurturing artistic dreams. He often visited the park, sometimes joining Emily on the bench, sharing stories, and simply enjoying the quiet beauty of the place that had brought them all together. As Emily sketched in the park that afternoon, the familiar scent of damp earth and fallen leaves filling the air, she felt a profound, almost tangible connection to Clara. It wasn't a ghostly presence, but a deeply felt sense of shared purpose and inspiration. It was as if Clara's spirit, vibrant and creative, was present, a gentle guide for her hand, an unseen muse inspiring her art. The rustling leaves of the ancient oak tree seemed to whisper stories, not just of the past, but of the endless possibilities of the future, a continuous narrative woven through time. The park, especially the majestic oak, had become a living symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of dreams. It represented the full circle of their story, from a hidden talent nurtured in solitude to a celebrated legacy shared with the world. Many now visited the park specifically because of the inspiring story associated with it, drawn by the quiet magic that lingered there. In the culmination of her artistic career, Emily completed a final, monumental artwork, a true masterpiece that captivated critics and art lovers alike. This grand piece was directly inspired by the park, by the memory of Clara, and by her own extraordinary journey. It was a vast canvas, rich with texture and color, depicting the ancient oak tree at its center, surrounded by layers of imagery that told the entire narrative. A young girl sketching, a hidden talent, a lost sister, an unexpected connection, and the blossoming of a life transformed. This artwork, titled The Oak's Embrace, encapsulated their entire story, a visual symphony of memory, art, and the profound power of human connection. It became her most famous and iconic work, a lasting testament to her unique vision and the powerful story behind it. The story of the maid's daughter who became a celebrated artist and the billionaire who helped her realize her dreams had become more than just a personal tale. It was a beloved local legend. It was shared in schools, retold in community gatherings, and printed in local histories, inspiring generations. It taught invaluable lessons about compassion, the beauty of second chances, and the hidden potential that often lies dormant in everyone, waiting for the right moment to be discovered. Their story, once a private saga of grief and hope, was now celebrated and remembered by an entire community, a beacon of human kindness. Emily, Mr. Harrison, and Sarah maintained a close, loving family bond that deepened with each passing year. They often gathered at Mr. Harrison's home, or sometimes for quiet picnics in the park, sharing stories, laughter, and the quiet joy of their shared journey. Their lives, once so disparate and disconnected, were now intricately intertwined, a beautiful tapestry woven by fate, choice, and enduring affection. The quiet strength of their connection remained the heart of their story, a testament to how even the most painful pasts, when met with courage and compassion, can lead to the most beautiful and unexpected futures. The narrative concludes with the profound understanding that while individual lives change and people grow older, the echoes of their story, the art born from love and loss, the compassion that healed old wounds, and the deep, abiding connections forged under the old oak tree, would continue to resonate for generations to come. The maid's daughter, the billionaire, and the park were forever linked in a tale of unexpected destiny, a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures are found not in wealth, but in the enduring bonds of the human heart. It was a satisfying and impactful end, emphasizing the lasting positive change that had rippled outwards from a single, quiet ritual in a park.